We are in the home stretch, and I get to introduce our closing speaker for today. He is my friend. He is my business partner and confidant. He's a friend to many, a great husband, a great father, and a great brother, including a great brother to me. He's a man of faith. Henry has his thumbprint on well over 300 books, including yours. He is my co-author on Defining You, Build Your Consulting Practice, and Rainmaker Confidential. Here to help us make it rain in the next 12 months is Henry DeVries.
It was one of the most disturbing moments of my life, and it happened at 9 p.m. last night. I was rehearsing for this talk. I wanted to do a fact check, and I was checking a date and a place. The year was 1908, the place Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And a young graduate student who was working his way through grad school by writing magazine articles was taking a train to meet with Andrew Carnegie, the richest man in the world. Carnegie had agreed to an interview, and it turned into a 3-day stay at his mansion. And during that stay, Carnegie convinced Hill that he wanted him to research a theory of success he had, and it would be a 20-year research project. And he would not pay him, but he would open the doors to the most successful people in the world for Napoleon Hill to interview. That turned into a book 20 years later called Think and Grow Rich. The rich part wasn't about money. It was about 12 different riches. Money was the last on the list. But it was about all the riches in life that these successful people had found. Let me tell you something about my life. The year was 2005, and I was the victim of undeserved misfortune. We had about 20 clients, and for all variety of reasons, all clients put me on hold. So we had no money coming in. And my wife, Vicki, took me aside and said, we need to talk. Nothing good has ever happened after a board member says we need to talk. And she used a 4-letter word, AJOB. You need to find a job. But I reread Think and Grow Rich. I had read it 24 times. And when I was working on that disturbing piece of research last night, a note fell out of the book. This was written in 2005 at that time. My intention is to lighten my overhead load and earn at least $1,000, to earn at least $100,000 a year. I will receive this money by offering the most expensive training of its kind for independent professionals who are struggling to find new clients. My intention is persistent action to speak in front of groups of professionals and business owners at seminars I put on, teleseminars I host, and at speeches at chambers of commerce and trade and professional associations. It's also said, my intention is to eat on program, exercise, and meditate the first hour of the day, and to spend the first 2 available hours of every business day enrolling, recruiting, and marketing on the phone. I had not known Mark LeBlanc at this time. So what was so disturbing? In my research, I found out that new information has come to light that Andrew Carnegie died in 1919, And Napoleon Hill did not start telling that story until after Carnegie died. And in fact, Carnegie biographers say there is no evidence that Napoleon Hill ever visited Andrew Carnegie. So I realized I was going to start the talk today with a lie. I was going to talk about a lie. I looked through some more stuff and Think and Grow Rich. This was a much later edition. This is the replica of the actual first edition. This talked about how W. Clement Stone said he used this book, Think and Grow Rich, to create a $100 million company. And he started with $100. There are other verified testimonials for what this book created and what it did. So I started in 2005 a 20-year research project. I started my own Napoleon Hill project. I've got 3 years to go until it's completed. Along the way, I've written a dozen books about what I've been researching with these interviews with successful people. That most expensive training program, actually, I think some of it's a good deal, but for the people who wanted to go up the mountain, who wanted to do everything with me, they have paid me over $100,000. And I have testimonials that I have helped them make $1 million. It's in writing and they're happy to share. What I wanted to share with you today, my main message is forget the con man Napoleon Hill. Think about the genius Napoleon Hill, who actually did go out and interview successful people and package it and share that information. My next story is, do you remember your Greek mythology? There's a war in Europe right now. It reminded me about another European war. We go back to the 8th century BCE. We're in Greece, and Homer is writing about the Trojan War. Now, the Trojan War probably happened 200 to 400 years prior to Homer. So he was relying on all these stories that had come up. In fact, he chose to write a myth about it. Now, you can write myths, you can write legends, you can write folk tales. He went full myth on this. And it was the myth about the Trojan War. Here's the background. The king of Sparta marries a woman who allegedly was the most beautiful woman on the planet. Many other writers would describe her this way. Homer described her as Helen of the lovely hair. It reminded me of the Beyonce lyric from Sorry, Becky with the good hair. So he was writing about Helen of the lovely hair. And the king of Sparta loved her so much, he got all the Greek leaders to swear an oath that they would protect his wife and his family. Well, dun, 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 that comes into play years later. Because the king of Troy also thought Helen was the most beautiful woman on earth, and he kidnaps her. Some say she eloped with him. It's a little fuzzy in the story, but takes her to Troy and marries her and has a family with her. Well, the king of Sparta calls in the oaths and says, we need to go to war. The Trojan War that Homer talks about lasts 10 years. 10 years of fighting. And finally, the Trojan horse comes into play. You remember from your Greek mythology, the Trojan horse, the Greeks did a fake out move. The Greeks said, we give up, we're leaving. And they all got on their ships and sailed away. They left a giant wooden horse as a gift to the Trojan gods. So they sail away. The leaders from Troy go out, they see this horse, it's probably 20 feet tall. They wheel it in to Troy, lock the gates, and have it and set it up as a tribute to their gods. I don't know why they were not suspicious. I was raised to be suspicious, but my mother was a waitress from New York. My dad was a farmer. These people are suspicious by nature, but these Trojans weren't suspicious. And sure enough, if you know your Greek mythology, there were Greek soldiers hiding in the horse. They climb out at night, they overtake the guards, they open the gates. Meanwhile, in the dark of the night, the Greek Navy had done a U-turn and came out, invaded, sacked Troy, rescue Helen. I bring this story up in connection with our book, Rainmaker Confidential, because of one of the interviews I did. Mark, Scott Love, and I, co-authors of the book, we interviewed over 100 rainmakers, people who were very good at making it rain by bringing clients in. And we wanted to see if there were common threads or common secrets. We didn't find a common secret. We found over 20 common secrets that these people knew and were shared. One was nicknamed the Trojan Horse strategy. Stephen Wozner, a podcaster, I interviewed him. He used that term, and he used it in connection with podcasting. I've used the strategy. It was part of my 20-year research effort because I found over and over stories of people who built relationships by giving a gift, not a tricky gift like a Trojan horse. The gift they gave was to research what was the biggest problem, what was the challenge, what was on the minds of their prospects. And then they did research with their peers on how to solve that. They built relationships. Recently, I was invited in. I was really challenged. It was like, you're so smart, come on in here. They didn't say it exactly that way, but that was the tone. And the advisors all dealt with CEOs of companies that were 30 million to 500 million. And they said, so you're an expert on lead generation and business development for consultants. How would you get in the door? And I said, that's easy. I'd use the Trojan horse strategy. They were looking for a trick to call a CEO and say some magic phrase, and they go, oh, I must talk to you about your product or service or offering. No, they said, I'm doing a research study. I'm writing a book about this problem. I'm going to interview your peers on it. If you agree to be interviewed, I will give you the first crack at the information before we publish it. You form relationships. Will every CEO of a $30 to $500 million company say yes? No. But I've averaged to get 40% yeses to be interviewed for these things. Four out of 10. Are you with me? And then you thank them. You give them a copy of the report. They mention something. You send them a book on that subject. You show interest in them. It's the law of reciprocation. Call it karma, call it kismet, call it what you will. If you show interest in people and are genuine and your brand is generosity, they'll remember that. Will every one of the 40% hire you? No, but you don't need that many. It only takes a few. If you remember the old Bob and Ray comedy team, they had a commercial that they did, and it was about a personal computer, and they had invented a personal computer. And the newsman interviewing them said, how much does one of these personal computers cost? And they said, $10 million. And the interviewer said, well, how many of those do you expect to sell? And Bob said, we only have to sell one. So I don't suggest you only need one client, but a handful of clients that are of high value, clients that are high paying. The hyphen is important there. If it's high, no hyphen paying, that means they're on drugs. If it's high hyphen paying, that means they pay you 5 figures, 6 figures for what you do. That's what I'm studying in my 20-year research project. Along the way, I interviewed Mark LeBlanc. And years later, we were speaking together. Years later, we were partners together. The relationship. Some of my best speaking opportunities has been due to my relationship with Mark. Some of your best speaking will come from relationships you're forming, maybe even today. So I have a message for you. Interview, interview, interview. Actually interview your prospect and find out what they want, not what you think they need. You have an awesome responsibility for your next book. I'm talking about your next book. My most recent book is Rainmaker Confidential. I'm happy to give everyone who's attending the forum a no-cost copy. We'll send you a PDF copy of Rainmaker Confidential. My gift to you. Our brand is generosity. What's your brand? But let me go back in time. And I told you 2005 was a tough year. It was also the 25th anniversary of my marriage to Vicki. And Vicki's never asked for anything. And she knew money was tight. And she said, you don't have to give me anything for our 25th anniversary. So I took that to mean, I better find something for her 25th anniversary. And I had a client in New York City. I visited her, and she happened to be a very high-end jewelry designer. And at the end of our working on her book, I said, say, you know, my 25th wedding anniversary is coming up. And she said, well, that's silver. That's the silver anniversary. I said, yeah. And I said, how much, would you charge for a custom necklace? And she said, come back tomorrow. I came back the next day, saw her in her penthouse on the west side of New York, overlooking the river. And she brought out a necklace that was made from deep purple raw amethyst gems. And she said, the silver is from Thailand. It's a silver necklace that pulls it together. And I knew there was no way I could afford this necklace. But I didn't say that. She said, oh, and you know, these were leftover things. So would $500 be fair? Yeah, 500 was fair. So I had this necklace, and now I have to run to the airport. But I thought, I just can't hand this to Vicki. Hey, happy 25th anniversary. Boom, here's a necklace. You know, presentation's important. So I stopped off at Macy's on the way to JFK. And I went into Macy's. It was late in the afternoon. I go into Macy's, and I go to the jewelry counter and get the head person at the jewelry counter at Macy's. And I said, I need to buy, it would be a type of box, like with velvet, and then you see them like in movies when people present a necklace and it's in this beautiful box. The Macy's person said, oh, I understand exactly what you're talking about. We don't sell those. I said, he goes, look, you're on 34th Street. That's the jewelry district. Just go to any jeweler and ask for that. So I go across the street. Time's ticking. Got a ticking watch here. I got to get to the airport. I go into a jewelry store, and the owner of the jewelry store happens to come out and to greet me and said, may I help you? And I said, yes, you know, I have a situation. I don't need to buy jewelry. I need to buy this box. I described the box, and he goes, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. We don't sell those boxes. I said, oh. He said, let me tell you, every day some guy like you comes in and wants to buy a box like that. And I have to tell them, we sell jewelry. We don't sell boxes like that for jewelry. So I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm a business coach. Do I tell this person that he would make so much more money if he sold these people jewelry boxes because that's what they want? And then they'd be customers and he could sell them other things that they want and need. But I was late for my plane. So I hope he figured this out for himself. The message here is find out what prospects really want and give it to them. The interviews and the research will help you know that. Okay. I don't want to tell you how to run your life. But if you don't look up something called Acres of Diamonds by Roger Conwell. If you don't look that up on the internet, you're making a horrible mistake. It's a speech from over 120 years ago. The man was on the lecture circuit and he gave this lecture wherever he went. He started it with a story. He had a very engaging story. And the whole speech, it's in writing, it's in public domain, is story after story that brings this point home. He told a story about when he helped somebody watch their general store. And while he was waiting to take over, this person came in and asked to buy a jackknife. And the guy said, I don't sell jackknives. We don't carry jackknives. Every day some Yahoo like you comes in and wants to buy a jackknife. And Conwell explained, maybe you should sell jackknives if that's what people want. The Acres of Diamonds is a story about somebody who went in search of diamonds around the world, sold his farm, and the person who bought it discovered one of the largest diamond mines in the world underneath the farm. But his point is not about diamonds and minerals and gems and purple raw amethyst. His point is your opportunity is where you're at right now. You have this amazing opportunity. He wrote, your diamonds, fill in whatever gemstone you want, purple amethyst, your diamonds are not in far distant mountains or in yonder seas. They're in your own backyard if you but dig for them. So your opportunity is right where you're at. His lecture circuit was so popular, he earned enough money to build Temple University in Philadelphia. So it's an amazing story. But now for the rest of the story, it's amazing for you that even though that language is old, the concepts are there. I think the concepts inspired Wallace Wattles to write The Science of Growing Rich in 1909. We definitely know that Napoleon Hill met Wattles and took that information. If you go down in time, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, that's just the bastard love child of all of this information. So this is the root that we have found. Law of attraction, a mastermind, having a definite purpose. It's all there. And the one message I wanted to leave you with today for that awesome responsibility you have for your next book is this. You need to care. You need to care deeply about your prospects. If you cared enough about your prospects, you would have all the credibility and impact you desire. Let me repeat it. If you cared enough about your prospects, you would have all the credibility and impact you desired. And you may quote me on that. I wish you great success finding your acres of diamonds. Thank you.